Thanks for joining our Take 5 for Finance, where you can take 5 minutes, learn something cool about small business finance that's going to help you in your company. Good morning and welcome to 5 for Finance. I'm David Worrell, and today we are talking to my new friend Scott Baker, who is an experienced HR executive and a fractional HR executive for small businesses, small and medium size, I guess you'd say, up to 100 employees, Scott, 500 employees.
Up to 500.
500. So that's a good size, medium sized company. Awesome. Scott spends his life back and forth between Florida and California. I've caught him on East Coast time this morning, and we are going to talk about how to budget to hire your next person, right? When do you go out and start the hiring process? When do you add people to your organizational chart? And the financial side of that, how do you know when you're ready to do that? But before I do get to that, we're going to let Scott introduce himself real briefly, and then we're going to dive into how to know when to hire your next person. So Scott, tell us about your background and your brand and where we can find you online.
Sure. Thank you, David. Well, as you mentioned, my name is Scott Baker. I run a fractional CHRO, VP of HR / HR director company out of beautiful Tampa, Florida. And I have clients all around the country. I started with 25 years of in-house HR, last 10 years pretty much at the executive level. So I'm very familiar with the discussions that go on in an executive team and a board level. And I do fractional HR. I have clients all over the country with employees all around the world. So I've been doing this for about 3 years. Love what I do. You can reach me at Scott Baker at Stage 3 Leadership. And the 3 is the number 3. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to find me is on LinkedIn.
Very good. Excellent. Well, thank you for that introduction. Sounds like you've had a fun career. And so let's talk about when you are a small business like you serve 10, 50, 100 employees. How do I know when to start thinking about adding, right? And this is a great example for my personal business. I've got between 10 and 15 employees at any given time. And my workflow is somewhat erratic, right? I might get a new customer this month, or I might lose a customer this month. But I feel like I want to stay one person ahead so I never have to say no to anybody. And at the same time, I'm pulled in 10 directions. And so I'm thinking, boy, it'd be nice to hire an HR person or an admin or a benefits person or a manager, a middle manager. So help me think about all of those things. What's your philosophy on when to hire people?
Sure. So I think about it as, a lot of companies come out and they just say, oh, we budgeted 20 new heads for this year and they're all approved, go. So what happens is you instantly overwhelm whoever is doing recruiting. So you've got somebody in-house that's coordinating all the meetings, interviews, offers, that sort of thing. But one of the ways I always share with people is take a step back and say, first of all, what are your priority positions? What are the most important positions that need to be filled? And then secondarily, look at how long it's going to take to fill those positions. So for example, a customer service rep might not be very long to hire that person and train that person. But a salesperson, it's going to take a lot longer to hire and train that person, and a lot longer for them to get up to speed to the appropriate productivity. Okay. So I also say to people is think about the timing of the hire, especially for sales, knowing when the best salespeople are going to be available in the market. And because we just started out the year, we're starting the second quarter. This is not a good time necessarily to hire because you're going to be hiring people in sales that are clearly not meeting their quota. So it doesn't mean for everybody, but these are the people who are going to be on the market now. I'm not meeting my quota. My sales VP is starting to top level the team, and so I'm out. Or they're going to wait until the end of the year. In January or February, they know what their bonus is going to be. They're going to wait for that commission check, that final one, and then they're going to leave. So that's the time to think about recruiting. Sales is January, February. Start in October, but think about hiring January, February when they're available.
Interesting.
When you hire salespeople, remember salespeople, one of the first questions they're going to ask you is, what's the pipeline, David? What's the pipeline that I have to sell? And if you say, we don't have any pipeline, you got to make it. Then they're going to say, It's going to take a while to build it, and I'm not going to get commissions on that until that happens. So what you do is you hire your BDRs or your SDRs first. You leverage them highly from a commission standpoint, and they get the pipeline going so that when you're talking to the best salespeople, you say, I have a pipeline worth X 100,000 or X million, and we want you to come in and close a deal. That is perfect for a top salesperson. Say, you just want me to close in these deals that you've already vetted. They're already SQLs. I'm ready to go, right?
Interesting.
So the other thing is to think about the positions, setting milestones and when you want to fill the positions. Because of course, every function is going to say, I need 5 people today. You could say, look, I agree with you, and we will put them in the budget as pre-approved. Right now, I'm only approving 2 of those positions until you hit this milestone, and then I'll add extras. So this works for engineering, it works for sales, it works for HR. Once we hit this employee headcount, then I'm going to add this additional person. It works for finance, whatever it can be.
Interesting. Okay. And you use some interesting acronyms in there. Let me back up for a second. BDR, Business Development Representative, or SDR, Sales Development Representatives. Those are people that are cold calling or knocking on doors or somehow developing what's called QSL, Qualified Sales Leads, right?
Yes.
That's a good acronym, QSL. So a sales guy in that case is the closer, and you've got a lower level staff, maybe a lesser paid staff who's just banging the phones or knocking on doors. Okay, very cool. Yeah, the milestone thing is interesting to think about. We tend to go on our annual retreats in January, February, and plan for the whole year, right?
Yes.
And so this year, internally, I can tell you, we said we want to double. We want to be, 30 people by the end of the year. That doesn't mean that I can go out and hire 15 people today, does it? But at the same time, it's interesting that those, how much do you encourage people to invest in HR, invest in people, versus work your people really hard until they can't take it anymore, and that's when you add another resource, right? So are you telling your clients to get ahead of the work by having more staff than you might actually need? You've got a little flexibility, people can take time off. Or are you saying, well, maximize your profitability by making everybody work 50, 60 hours a week until they just can't stand it, and that's the milestone that we'll hit before we go hire somebody else? You have a preference on that?
I've spoken to a lot of clients recently. When I usually come into a client, one of the first things I do is I do a culture assessment. And that doesn't mean it's anything in writing. It's just, I ask the company, I say, give me a group of 10 of your best employees and let me talk to them. And I ask them, well, how do you define culture? And, what's important to you? What would you change? What do you like about your job and working for the XYZ company? And then I provide a summary of that to the company. What's interesting to me to start there is the employers that have the best and most engaged and most productive, by the way, employees are those that have a great culture. And culture really starts with the leadership. So if there's a situation where they're just working people 60 hours, up to 60 hours a week, and just see if they break, they will break and they will leave. And you will have to hire other people, and they'll take that ramp up period. Maybe it's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year for some positions for them to ramp up again. So I would say start with culture and what you need. Your employees, if you have a good culture, they will work hard and they will let you know when they need somebody else, not because of laziness, but because they're so proud of what their department achieves and they want to keep that service level high.
Yeah. I think that's culture is the cornerstone of everything for me. I totally appreciate that. And I really turned my business 5 or 6 years ago when I started understanding, wow, how important culture is. I think it's interesting, though, the larger culture, if you will, the American economic culture these days, as the younger workforce comes up, as COVID and lockdowns have taught us the interest of flex time and working at home and remote and all that stuff, how many people would prefer to work 20 or 30 hours a week versus 50 or 60. And so as an example, in the accounting world, we get people bailing out of the big 8 accountants or however many there are now who just say, they were working me 50, 60 hours. And that was the accounting culture for so long. And now we realize that's not cool. And they're saying, boy, it'd be great if I could work 20 or 30 or 40 hours a week at your location. So I'm trying to staff ahead of the curve, right? I don't have even 30, 40 hours a week of work for 3 more people. But if I could hire them, I might, in anticipation of building the company around them, right? And keeping everybody happy at the same time, knowing that I'm not going to have anybody working 60 hours a week before everybody works 30.
Right.
Yeah, very interesting.
So what I hear you saying, David, is thinking about the labor pool, right? You can widen and increase your labor pool and getting top candidates if you have opportunities for them to work 20 to 30 hours a week, right? Versus everybody's working, 50, 60 hours a week. But I think that some companies try to over pivot to all the new things. Oh, we'll give you this time off. We'll give you this, only work 20 hours a week if you want. They can over pivot to being that way. Yeah. And there's a lot of employees out there that really want to work 50 hours a week. They want to work on a highly productive team, not a stressful environment.
Yeah.
With a manager breathing down their neck and micromanaging. That's not what they're asking for. Yeah. But they just like to work.
Yeah.
And, there was a survey recently, I forgot who did it, and they basically said that it's okay for you to email people over the weekend because people who want to work are okay with that. Yeah. They're okay, as long as it's not done under pressure. Hey, you need to get back to me in 5 minutes on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. That's great. That's great perspective, Scott. Thank you for putting a bow on that. Planning your workforce is a huge challenge for a lot of small businesses. The smaller the business starts, the more of a challenge it is, right? Because with only 10 employees, my next hire represents 10% of my workforce. It's not the same as a 500 employee company adding 2 or 3 people. So big decisions. And if you're watching today, please reference my videos on return on investment or return on invested cash for your business. Because one thing we know is that if you have enough cash to put into the business to hire somebody, as I was saying, hiring ahead of the work curve or hiring additional salespeople to gin up more work, that you can receive a 100 to 150% return on your money annually, year after year after year, if you have a good business plan and you can invest that money into growth. And HR is certainly part of that growth. But it does have to be planned, and there does have to be work for people when they get there on day one. And you do have to hit those milestones and continue growing in order to make it all work out. All right, awesome. Well, Scott, thank you so much for joining us on 5 for Finance, and hope to see you again.
Good. Thank you, David.
If you're enjoying this and learning something new about your business, please remember to leave some comments down below, hit subscribe, or send me an email, david@fusecfo.com. I look forward to hearing from you.